Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to another videos, another paid request, this time from Douglas. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 1994 film Radioland Murders, which I have heard of this film. I believe Tino Lorber is going to release a Blu-ray. I think they're releasing a Blu-ray of this soon. So it's kind of interesting timing. I won't be picking it up because I wasn't really a fan of this movie. Its heart was kind of in the right place, but I think the execution was very flawed. Now, it's produced by George Lucas. George wanted this movie made for years and years. I think he might have had the idea around the time he did American Graffiti. Like, that's how long he had the idea. But it just took so long to do it. Another guy directed it, and I can't remember the guy's name. I don't know what else the guy has directed. I think one of the writers for Howard the Duck worked on this. Was it Willard Hook? I can't remember. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on it. It's trying to be a love letter to the era of radio, where there are these big old-time radio shows, where there's big production, and there's a new company being made to have competition with the other radio shows. So they do this big thing where they have a crowd and various different venues of the radio show, singers, advertisers, plentiful amount of different types of stories where people get their scripts and someone back with the sound engineer doing all the sounds and all the thunder and gunshots and everything. Big, massive production for all the ears in America. So I can appreciate that because it's a time before television, or at least if television was there as a brand new thing. And yeah, that's the thing people don't really think about nowadays. Like, to listen to a whole show where people have to do all sorts of voices and you use your imagination to create what they're detailing to you. And the cast, there's a lot of recognizable people. Brian Benben, who I love from the film I Come in Peace with Dolph Lundgren. He's the star of the film. You have Stuart Masterson, Ned Beatty from Deliverance, among many other films. George Burns, Oh God, You Devil, and all these old films from back in the day. This is the last film he was a part of. And he was, he was quite old in this, and he has a small part, but it was nice to see him in there. Christopher Lloyd has a supporting role. Brian James, who was in Tango and Cash, among many other films, he's in this. Corbin Burnson from Major League and The Dentist, he has a role. Bobcat Goldthwait from some of those Police Academy sequels, he's in this. Michael McKean from Airheads and This is Spinal Tap. He has a role in this. So a lot of recognizable people in the cast. And there's some good looking shots. The very opening where it's the Universal logo and there's a star background and the camera pans down and it's panning down this big old radio station to give this big wide scope of the public attendance for this radio show and its premiere showing, where for all the ears on radio, we're going to show how great radio is, and it's going to be a big spectacle where a lot of stuff's going to be put into tonight, and all takes place in one night. So then, while people are doing this premiere and there's all this wacky stuff going on, one by one people get murdered, and they gotta try to figure out who the murderer is. Brian Benben gets accused of murder. Him and Stuart Masterson, they work together, but then she's talking about divorcing him, and he's like, no, don't do that, baby. There's fights in the writer's room with Bobcat Goldthwait and others because they haven't been paid. Michael McKean is the conductor. He doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue, but he does actually a pretty good job. He's actually, I thought, one of the better parts of the film, just because of his mannerisms, his facial reactions to things. He did a lot without saying a lot, which can take quite a bit of effort. Corbin Burnson is the radio announcer. Christopher Lloyd is one of the sound engineers, and it was kind of fun to see his quirky ways of doing all these sound effects. Ned, I've heard people say Ned Beatty and Ned Beatty. I've heard it pronounced both ways, so I'm going to say Ned Beatty for now. He's the general, as in he's the owner of the facility. Another guy, Jeffrey Tambor, who's been in a lot of stuff. He's Ned's son. That's another character actor who's been in a lot of stuff, Jeffrey Tambor. I think he was like Billy Crystal's boss near the beginning of City Slickers. He's done a lot of stuff. Was it Larry Miller, who I remember from The Night Professor? I think it was the sequel where you had the big, what was it, gopher? Guinea pig? The big creature that went and clapped his cheeks. But Larry Miller's been in a lot of stuff. As I said, a lot of recognizable people in this. Stephen Tobolowsky, Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day. He's in this. He's mostly in the control booth. And like I said, it's the first night of this radio station. So you have a pretty decent cast. You have a pretty decent idea. You know, Premier Radio Station is a different format. It's something we don't get to see a whole lot. There's various movies about TV stations and others, you know, being on a movie set. Not a ton about being on a radio station set. And like how much of a spectacle production is for the crowd there. And the problem is that it is obnoxiously slapstick. And I love slapstick. I love the Three Stooges. The Three Stooges were more subtle than this movie. I'm not kidding. The Three Stooges were more subtle than this movie. Because the Three Stooges, like, they would do slapstick, but at the same time their reactions were serious, which I thought made it funnier. Like, especially Moe. Even Curly, he'll do crazy stuff, but his eyes look very serious and, you know. Here, everyone is just slipping, falling, throwing up papers, yelling, screaming, running through the corridors here, running through the corridors there. And like Brian Benben, I like him, but I do not like his performance in this, because it's, hello, see? I'm talking like this, because it's 1935. Hey, see? Like, very hammered it up on that aspect, which I think a bit more subtle performance could have actually been a funnier performance. Or maybe a different casting choice, I hate to say it. Maybe like a Treat Williams. If a Treat Williams was playing this role, maybe that could have worked better. And that's the thing, maybe a bit more serious actor like that. I'm trying to think who else at that time. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, like, various people at that time. Or maybe just don't give them that trying to be 30s accent where everybody else is kind of playing it. Not a whole lot of people had that little accent that Brian Benben was having, and I don't know, just either it's the wrong casting choice or needed to fix his performance, direct his performance a bit better. But again, part of me is like, yeah, if you did someone like Treat Williams or someone else of that nature, that maybe would have been a bit more interesting. Maybe it could have made things a little bit better. Like I said, George Burns, Christopher Lloyd, they're in it for a little bit. trying to think. Yeah, folks flapping around. They're trying to get their papers for the strip, and they keep hitting the door, and keeps hitting the door again. Just people keep coming up, and oh my God, gotta get the papers. And then people get, they drop dead one by one. The trumpet player dies. Someone's found hanging. Someone gets caught in these gears because the stage keeps going in a circle and there's a malfunction, so someone goes down. I was trying not to spoil for those who want to see the film, but okay, spoilers if you want to see the film. Just watch the trailer. Well, I don't know, I haven't seen the trailer, so maybe the trailer gives everything away. The trumpet player gets killed, the Jeffrey Tambor gets hung. They find him hung. Larry Miller goes down to try to fix stuff. He gets caught in the gears. Which, granted, that was his own stupid doing to put himself with these gears. Like, if that didn't happen, then Larry Miller would be alive. Then what would the killer do then? Brian James, he's killed by laughing gas. Ned, he falls down an elevator. Brian Benben is trying to figure out how this is happening, what's going on. Meanwhile, cops are there, headed by Michael Lerner, which I've seen him in a couple movies, Omen 4 being one of them. He was in this horror film called Anguish back in the day. But sadly, he's passed away. He's been in a couple movies. And they think Brian Benben did it, so he's trying to warn them, but then the cops are chasing him, and there's some hijinks where like he's on the radio station signs and they'll break apart, so he swings through the window. Pretty decent stunt. There's another bit where he's pretending to be a lady, or he's in a penguin suit and he's trying to talk to this, almost said bellboy, it's not a bellboy, but this guy who's like, yes, I'll do anything you want, sir. Yes, okay, I'll do anything you want, sir. Brian Benben is looking into some info as to what this is all about. Oh, this is about something that happened in the previous station, well before, where these guys were at. The cops are chasing him. There's these fire hose hijinks where he's getting all twisty-turvy, but he's trying to get the cops away until we eventually... He wrote a script. He finds out who it is. He gives the script to them. They're reading it out loud. And then they say who it is. And spoiler, you find out it's Stephen Tobolowsky. It's Ned Ryerson. Ned? He did it because it's a patent on television and he got screwed over, and pretty much the cops and Brian Benben get there. Hey, take me as a hostage, not marry Stuart Masterson. So Stephen Tobolowsky takes Brian Benben hostage. They go to the roof. There's a biplane. I guess the cops call for a biplane. I don't know, that's something that usually happens, where a cop's like, get a biplane and shoot across. I'm like, maybe it's Teen Con, and maybe that's what they're going for, a Teen Con motif. Where the biplane goes by and shoots, kills Stephen Tobolowsky. Brian Benben and the girl, they argue, but then they love each other, then they kiss. And it ends with someone saying, radio will never die, which, I don't know, cue that song. Kill the radio star. Video killed the radio star. I know I went in a jumbled way describing the plot, so it's not that exciting or that in-depth of a review. It's just with me, I like to go through a story to kind of, if you haven't seen the film and you don't care about spoilers, to get a semblance of an idea of what happens throughout the story. And just kind of like radio. Funny enough, kind of like radio. So you picture a bit in your mind as to what happened in the movie before you see it. Or if you don't ever care to see it, then you get somewhat of a picture. So it gets in a weird way I can relate to. That whole notion. But you see, that was the more interesting part oh, they have this girl that's like a Betty Boop. She sounds like Betty Boop, boop boop beep doop, doing this type of commercial. And I mean, how much of this did radio stations have this much effort put into each show, whereas this extravagant event? I should have looked more into that because, again, it's before my era, so I don't know the details. I would assume that if they want to give a love letter to it, okay, let's put details in here that, yeah, this is actually how they would do it, this is how they would work it, especially if they're starting anew. It just as a comedy, I really didn't find it that funny. And the characters, for a lot of times, felt very obnoxious. You know, I like Bobcat Goldthwait, but he's just doing his shit that he did in Police Academy 2 and 3 and 4. And I thought he was funnier in that. But that, I'm the very loud voice type of thing. Christopher Lloyd, he once in a while does like a weird look and use a sound effect, but there's really nothing else to his character. He doesn't really have any meat to the bone because he has a small part in it. Brian Benben and Mary Stuart Masterson, you really don't get much of their relationship because for the most part, aside from a few scenes, they're mostly separated and there's nothing substantial. It's trying to be this very goofy, silly, slapstick comedy. But hell, I think another film did that better, which also did not get positive reviews. Oscar with Sylvester Stallone. I actually thought it was a rather funny movie, and I thought, as much as I don't like John Landis, I did think he did a better job showcasing that slapstick screwball comedy. Like, that was a screwball comedy that felt more in the vein of the films back then. I thought Stallone was very funny, and whether it be Tim Curry or is it, I think, Chaz Palminteri, and the way it's like people keep coming out of the house of Stallone's place, and how this suitcase gets in this guy's suitcase, but then this person has it, and then how confusing that gets, and how the pacing of it. Yeah, I actually thought that's a fun film. I think it's a bit underrated. I think that's easily Stallone's best comedy, and while Stop and Mom Will Shoot, I can watch and have fun with, but I can understand the criticisms perfectly. And his comedic performance in Spy Kids 3 is one of his worst performances. Perhaps his worst performance. Oscar, I think, is actually a fun film. And again, that to me, I thought encapsulated more of a 1930s screwball comedy. This, it just felt more obnoxious. And you never get a breather from it. And the more I think about it, I think Brian Benben was just miscast. And I mean, as much as I liked him, I don't think he was the right fit for this. Or again, if you could alter his performance more so, but again, like Tree Will, I don't know why I keep talking about Tree Williams. Trying to think of someone else. Even like a Michael J. Fox, or someone like that, where okay, they're small in stature, and they have like affable quality, and but at the same time they're in the middle of this crazy murder mystery, and they're accused, and I just think of some of the films Michael J. Fox has done where he's had to be put into these physical situations. You know, films like Doc Hollywood and even The Hard Way, where his character had to be put in these dangerous situations. Like the finale of The Hard Way, on that big advertisement thing, and Michael J. Fox is up there with James Woods and the killer, and even that film I thought was funnier than this. I think a different guy is the lead. I think a script that gave room to breathe and at times toned down a bit make it a teeny bit more subtle with the slapstick, I think could have helped. Because it's a movie that's like, hey, laugh at this. And it's like really trying to force you, like, this is funny. Don't you get this is funny? I'm like, I get that's what you think it's funny, but it just becomes tiresome after a while. It really does. It becomes tiresome after a bit. So again, while it's nice to see the recognizable cast, obviously after the opening shot, I can't really think of any other shots that really wowed me. Like the first scene is like the best shot scene in the movie. I think it's kind of a waste of a decent idea, and I can see why this film didn't really do much in terms of box office. In fact, you don't even really hear anybody ever mention this film. I could kind of see why. Is it the worst movie ever? No, but yeah, I think a few more rewrites on the script, fine-tuning some of the comedy, not having every character be this zany upon zany person. I think maybe that could have helped a bit. And being so relentless. I mean, it's trying to be relentless like an Airplane movie, like those parodies. But those, I thought, the cast, like, you look at the cast in Airplane, because it's like trying to throw so many gags. Not granted, it's different type of gags, but like, it's trying to be funny so often, like an Airplane, Zucker's Brothers movie. But you look at the way Robert Hayes and Leslie Nielsen and Robert Stack, how they played it so straightforward and so serious. So when the crazy stuff happened, even though they didn't make it, Airplane 2. I know the guys who made the first one, they didn't do the second one. But you look at William Shatner in Airplane 2, and how serious, like, the lights are blinking and blinking and they're always blinking. But he plays it serious, but because of how preposterous what he's saying, that makes it funnier. But everyone's like, it's funny, right? You know, like how crazy we are, like how zany we are. And it's just not as endearing, to me at least. But that's just me. So. But if you're a fan of the film, apparently Kino Lorber is releasing a Blu-ray of it. I don't know when. So you can pick it up if you want. Douglas, I don't know your thoughts on the film. Feel free to comment. If you like the film, that's cool. Teach their own. To me, I thought it was a missed opportunity. Again, Oscar, I thought, did that better. I actually makes me want to go rewatch Oscar sometime. It's been a while since I've seen it. But with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later.